They told us not to go inside. The floors were unstable, they said, mold in the walls, asbestos in the ceiling. But demolition day doesn't wait for superstition. I was 23, working summers with my uncle's crew. That morning in June 1986, I found the reel wedged behind a heating vent in the basement of 312 Willow Street. It was labeled in thick black marker, June 6, 1986. But the footage was from 1979. We watched it on a reel-to-reel projector in the garage. No sound, just grainy images of 5 teens laughing, heading into the woods. Then came the séance, the flickering candlelight, the way they started accusing each other, crying, screaming, bleeding. One girl walked backward into the trees and never came back. And the final shot still haunts me. The reel was silent. But I swear, that last minute sounded like breathing. The first time I threaded that reel onto the projector, I did it with shaking hands. The kind of fear that clings to your ribs, not because of what you see, but because you already know it's wrong. It started innocently enough. 5 teenagers standing on a dirt path, backpacked and bundled for a chilly Oregon spring. Their voices were lost to the silent film, but their mouths moved with laughter. One boy, taller than the rest, carried a handheld camera and pointed to a path marked Willow Creek, trail closed. They went anyway. The woods behind Willow Creek had long been a place of whispered warnings, stories of children disappearing, a local legend about a black tree with no leaves, even in summer. But in 1979, kids loved scaring themselves. There was something rebellious about it, and as the footage stuttered forward, it was clear they'd planned this outing with that in mind. The girl with the wide, frightened eyes, Holly, I'd later learn, carried a candle and what looked like a worn leather book. Another boy, curly-haired and fidgety, carried a bell jar filled with ash or dirt. They were trying to summon something. The camera sat on a rock. For a few minutes, nothing happened. Then the footage jumped. It cut to one of the teens, Ricky, bleeding from his nose. His head jerked back unnaturally before the image smeared into black for several frames. When it returned, the group was arguing, no longer laughing. One boy paced, holding his temples. The other girl had curled into herself by a tree, scratching at the bark until her fingers bled. Holly opened the book again. The candle flickered, then grew unnaturally tall, at least double its height in one frame. Another jump. They weren't alone anymore. It wasn't something you saw right away, but shadows didn't move like that. A figure, barely a silhouette, passed between 2 trees in a frame so grainy it almost escaped me. But once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. Another jump. Ricky was gone. No one mentioned it, as if his absence had been erased from their minds. The next scene showed only 3 of them: Holly, the curly-haired boy, and the girl who had been by the tree, whose name, I think, was Mara. They sat in a triangle, holding hands. Their faces were blank, eyes wide, unblinking. There were marks on their skin, scratches that hadn't been there before. Then came the worst part. The camera began to move, not shakily, not handheld, smoothly, as if on a dolly. It circled them slowly, deliberately, but no one was filming. As the reel ticked forward, I felt a coldness in the room, not from the garage door being open, a deeper chill like something leaning in just behind me. I didn't turn around. The final minute of film was utterly still. Just the treetops captured from below, leaves barely rustling. But in those branches you could see them, 5 figures, swinging, silent. Then, a date, burned into the last frame like a scar. June 6th, 1986. The day I found it. But no camera from 1979 could have recorded that. The reel was marked June 6th, 1986 from the start. No forensics ever made sense of it. No one could explain how a film made in 1979 ended with footage from 1986, or why every original label said otherwise. I took it to a university professor once. He watched 5 minutes and refused to finish. He told me, without irony, to bury it in salt and never speak of it again, so I did, until now. I didn't sleep that night. The reel stayed locked in my uncle's workshop, but I couldn't shake the images. Not just the footage, but something else. That feeling I'd had while watching it, that I wasn't alone, that someone or something was seeing through me. Over the next week, things started to go wrong. My friend Bobby, who'd watched the film with me, called 2 days later. Aitik said he hadn't been to work since. Said he felt watched, that his house had gone cold. He swore up and down that the projector turned itself on one night around 3 a.m., even though we'd unplugged it. He burned sage, lit candles, but the smell lingered. Smoke that didn't come from anything burning. Something like wet leaves and rot. Then came the voices. Low murmurs mostly. Just out of earshot. I heard them too. I returned to the reel, thinking maybe it was just paranoia. That watching it again might dispel the fear. But it was worse the second time. There were new frames. Images I didn't remember. One, showing Holly staring directly at the camera, whispering. But the reel had no sound. Another of Mara pressing her hand against the lens, as if trapped behind glass. I paused the frame. Her eyes weren't her own, not anymore. I tried to get rid of it. First, I left it in the dumpster behind the local theater. Gone the next day, but back in the garage that night. Then I buried it. Dug a hole in the backyard, wrapped it in cloth and poured salt over it. I didn't tell anyone, not even Bobby. It rained hard that night. Thunder shook the sky like the earth itself had cracked open. The next morning, the film canister sat on the porch, clean, dry, and still warm to the touch. That was when I called a professor at Reed College, a folklore expert who specialized in occult artifacts and urban legends. Dr. Hargrave. He didn't laugh. I brought the reel to him. He didn't touch it, only observed it under a magnifier. He said the film stock had no manufacturer markings, no edge codes, no serials. It was film, but not of this world. When I asked what to do, he said only this: do not screen it again, and under no circumstance should you bring it into a sacred place. What happens if I do? He looked up, and for a long time he didn't answer. Then finally, it's not the footage that curses you, it's the watching. By then it was too late. Bobby had gone missing the night before. Police found his shoes at the edge of Willow Creek, that same trail-closed path from the film. His front door was unlocked, TV on, no signs of struggle. The reel sat beside his couch, neatly rewound. I went there once more. Back to Willow Creek. I don't remember driving. I only remember standing at the tree line, the scent of damp moss and iron heavy in the air. There were no birds, no insects, no wind. I heard the camera click behind me, but I was alone. No one's seen me on film since. Not in family videos, not in mirrors. My reflection is gone. A price, maybe, for having watched what I wasn't meant to. But I still have the reel. I've kept it sealed inside a metal box, locked inside another, buried again with salt and prayers and warnings. Because somewhere in that footage, time bends, memory breaks, people vanish. And if you ever come across it, don't thread it, don't watch, burn it, or walk away, but never play the Willow tape. Years passed, I moved away, changed my name, tried to outrun what I saw. But some things cling no matter how far you go. In 1995, I got a letter with no return address. Just a folded piece of paper, yellowed and brittle. It said, "They're still watching. H." I hadn't spoken that name in nearly a decade. Holly. She was supposed to be dead, swung from the trees in that silent final frame. But I found myself tracing that single letter again and again until the ink rubbed off on my fingertips. That night I dreamt in black and white. I was in the woods again, but this time I wasn't watching. I was being watched. Eyes peered through the trees. The candle flickered again. I could smell it now. Wax, old paper, burned hair. I turned to run and fell into the earth itself, swallowed by rot. When I woke up, dirt was under my nails. My fingers smelled of smoke. I told no one. In 2004, a man knocked on my door. He said his daughter had vanished in the Portland woods near Willow Creek, that her friends claimed they were making a film. He held up a photo. It was the same camera, same model, same make, a reel-to-reel, just like the one from the tape. I told him everything I could, but he left hollow-eyed and trembling. A month later, they found him in the woods. Eyes wide, skin cold, no cause of death. The coroner noted one thing. His pupils had narrowed to pinpricks, like someone looking into direct light or through a lens. I don't sleep much now, haven't in years. The tape's buried deep, but its echo still finds me. Sometimes I hear the clicking sound in my dreams. Sometimes it's just behind the walls. Sometimes I see shadows that don't belong to me. So if you're hearing this, if this account finds you, promise me something. If you ever come across a metal box sealed with iron wire and etched with the date June 6th, 1986, don't open it. And for the love of God, don't watch the Willow tape. In 2023, the house at 312 Willow Street was demolished for real, foundation and all. But during excavation, the crew found something unexpected. Beneath the crawl space, buried in the untouched soil, was a metal box wrapped in rusted chains. The foreman, a man named Alvarez, said it was ice cold despite the summer heat. Inside, the reel, still marked June 6, 1886. It changed hands 3 times that year, archivists, collectors, even a YouTube urban explorer. All of them disappeared within months, no trace. Only their empty homes, power still running, cameras still recording. Then the footage resurfaced on a darknet forum. Digitized, cleaned, but the last frame was missing. Just static. And a sound. Barely audible, but there, like breath behind the microphone, or someone whispering just beyond the veil. They say the original reel is still out there, sealed in something stronger than iron. But if you hear a knock late at night and no one's there, ask yourself, did you watch the Willow tape?
And so, the shadows stretch further, and the mystery only deepens. But this is far from the end. It's merely the beginning. What lingers beyond the door? Who is whispering your name? And what is that shifting in the corner of your eye? The answers await in the next chapter of these chilling tales. Subscribe to Nightfall Crypt and hit the notification bell, because the crypt's secrets are endless and the darkness never sleeps. Until next time, stay in the light if you can.